Again, welcome everybody. We're just about to start the book launch, and you're very welcome. I just remind you to put your microphone on mute. Otherwise, all your back noises will be recorded and forever online. So put yourself on mute to avoid becoming famous in ways you don't want. I'll do the same thing. I just want to welcome everybody. I'll avoid now listing all the names of everybody who will participate and share, but I'm very, very happy to welcome you to this book launch. So now, even we are in the midst of the pandemic and it's not getting really as much better as we all want to, it has one little advantage, that we see all the contributions, or many of them, and I'm somehow sure that you wouldn't have maybe made it all to come to Munich or Salzburg if you were to travel. The book started, it's alive in a meeting in Munich 1.5 years ago, which the House of Religions initiative in Munich was hosting, and we were at the city center hall of Munich gathering, and then for a one-day conference. And out of that came, after that fascinating meeting, came the idea to make a little book out of all that. And so here you go. I hope most of you have got it already, or at least now you can buy it if you want to, of course. And the idea of today is that we try to make some little updates of all the contributions in the book. So we have invited all the speakers. Not everybody was able to make it. I'll say something before each of the contributions, and not to lose too much time in the beginning. I just want to check if Mrs. Holzer is already with us from Lit. Again, please switch on mute if you are not talking. And I'm asking Miss Holzer, is she there from Lit?
Yes, hi, I'm there. Sorry, I'm hearing very strange noises. Shall I start nevertheless?
Now it's good.
Now your microphone is on mute, please.
Thank you. Not that easy, but it's great to be part of such an international book launch. I've never been to book launch that spans continents. It's very exciting. Thank you all for contributing to the book, and especially thank you, Martin Rötting, for making it all possible. I'm Timna Holzer, representing Lit Publishers, where the book was published. It's the first installment of a new book series called Religious Studies in Interfaith Contexts. And we're looking forward to all the great volumes that are still to come after this one. Since the contributors are, of course, much more able to talk about the contents, I'll just tell you 2 sentences about lit publishers. We are based in Germany and in Vienna. I work in Vienna. And we are mainly academic publishers with an international program focusing on humanities. And of course, our books are sold internationally via our distribution partners. There's also an ebook available via EBSCO, so there should be no problem if you want to buy the book wherever you are. And now I'm looking forward to the presentations.
Mr. Rötting, I cannot hear you. Are you muted?
Oh, I should be fine.
Okay, now I can hear you.
Yes, so welcome to everybody. And please, Wolfgang, would you share your little presentation, the update of Hannover?
So welcome from Hanover, and thank you, Martin, for organizing this conference and especially the book. Just a few words about us in Hanover. We are the House of Religion Center for Interreligious and Intercultural Education, and there's 2 things important for us in what we do. First, we founded a network of religions in a municipality, and we started 30 years ago as an informal group we called the Forum of Religions, and today we are about 35 religious communities. And out of this forum grew what we call the Council of Religions, which is, if you want so, the leading board of the forum. And at the moment, we see in very many cities in Germany that similar structures are coming into being. So we founded, together with the colleagues in Frankfurt, the Federal Congress of the Councils of Religions.
David.
And at the moment, we have 60 to 65 cities in this network, and it is growing. Out of this grew the House of Religions. We started in 2005. Actually, it's funny, we used the name since about 2000, and nobody really knows where it came from. So who invented it? Maybe one of you knows where the name actually came from. We used it since 2000 and started the house very informally in 2005 in a former church building. And we concentrate, the main focus is interreligious education for school classes. And we have about 5,000 visitors a year. Right now, construction work is going on in the house, and we will have a new House of Religions, completely new, hopefully, in 2022 with a new permanent exhibition. And at the moment, the house looks like this from the outside and like this from the inside. So there's construction work going on. And in the end, we will have the first floor, especially in the house, and the second floor. And there will be flats in the former roof of the church. And you see here what used to be the church tower, and we will have an art project transforming this tower, hopefully in 2 or 3 years' time. The situation at the moment when the school classes come to us is often like this. You see the pupils sitting on the stairs with their jackets on, and that's what we want to change with the new building. We will have a big room where the religions are presenting themselves. And this is actually what you can also see in the book, the first vision of the designers. They're in this moment actually working on it. And we are very excited to see the first detailed vision. This is the first vision they ever made about 2 years ago. And there will be 9 cubes where the 9 religions are presenting themselves, designed especially for the school classes and the teachers that come to us. And the 9 groups are, last slide, the 9 groups are Christians, Jews, Muslims, Hindu, Buddhists, Baha'i, Alevi, Yazidi, and also the humanists. So we are not only the religions in the strict sense, but we do have 2 secular groups among us, and they are part of this permanent exhibition. And if you add the symbols that we use, it looks like this: 9 groups in one room presenting themselves. And of course, we welcome all of you. Hopefully, we'll meet again somewhere at a conference, or you visit us in Hanover at the opening or sometime after that. Thank you for this conference, and so far from Hanover.
Thank you very much for this wonderful update. And I can share one little story that the last image of the exhibition, which we saw, you find it in the book, and it was really last minute that we got it. So thank you very much, Hannover, for this really good update. It really gives a good impression of what will be in the very near future, and of the very good work you're doing already now. And we will follow up on that. Now we coming to maybe one of the real also more important houses of religions in the world. Together with Hannover, Bern is one of the well-established places in Europe, with an experience in running a house of religions since many years. And Karin will share us. Karin, are you with us already? I've seen you on the list.
Yes.
Yes.
Hello.
Welcome. And sharing is going on, so please go ahead. Thanks.
Thank you very much for organizing this the book at first and the meeting now. It's very interesting to have this international reunion now. It's funny, we have pretty much the same name as the example we heard before from Hanover, House of Religions, Dialogue of Cultures. And the roots of this house go back to probably the similar years. It started in the late 90s, and the association was founded in the year 2002. Out of the, let's say, they realized, like, where do the small religious groups actually practice their beliefs and meet and have social interactions? And from this idea, it started that we want to build a house of religions where small and not represented religious communities have their own sacred spaces for worshiping, for meeting, for gathering. And there it was a long process with negotiations. What do you need? How big your room should be? What other requirements are necessary? And it was also included with the municipality to find a place where such a house can be constructed. And they have chosen a place to connect also different areas in the city. There hasn't been anything before there to bring together more the people. And as you can see on the picture, I've just chosen this one. The House of Religions and Dialogue of Cultures is the bluish part in the middle. It's part of a bigger construction. On top, there are flats. And on the bottom, there is some space with shops. And all in all, then it was possible to build also this house. There are 8 religious communities, the ones who were there, not all since the beginning, but mostly since the beginning in these negotiation processes. It's a Buddhist group, a Tamil Hindu group, Alevi, different Christian groups who share a church, a mosque. They 5 groups have an own room, and it was very important that they themselves say what is necessary, and they were responsible themselves for financing their space and also for the design of their rooms. And 3 other groups, the Sikhs, the Jewish community in Bern, and the Baha'i, are also participating in the dialogue space, which is constructed in the middle of all these different sacred rooms, where we offer various things to a public for internal and external interests. And so we have also education programs focusing on anti-discriminatory things, inclusive, participatory, with the people involved in the religious communities, and to strengthen their potentials, their ability, and also their visibility in society. We also have cultural offers. We have a restaurant which offers Ayurvedic and kosher food. This is maybe an example of how these negotiations bear fruits. It's also a space where people can meet and get in touch with each other and have discussions on certain issues. So we are involved with many stakeholders, and since 2014, sorry, I didn't say before, it was opened. So it's 6 years now, and we are currently really involved also in organizational development. And before it was a vision, and now this house is constructed, it's there, and how we can do and offer and organize internal all these activities in the house on an eye level, on mutual respect, in peace, with all involved people. And this is not so easy now, because the vision, of course, is still there, but how to organize it on a what's the word, basing on equality between all players. And we try also to strengthen the religious communities in political way, in a societal aspect, so that their visibility gets bigger and broader, and prejudice can become smaller. I don't know how much time is left. I think it's really an example, which is constructed already, and which has a long history until it's built like that. Maybe the place where it's built then was renamed because there was no square before, and it's named Square of Europe. So also in a very inclusive and international vision. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And maybe if you ever in Bern, have a look and have a meal at this restaurant. I can only praise the food there. It's a wonderful place. And also, if you go there from the city center, you can really feel how the House of Religion and the Vision really reshaped that part of the city in a very positive sense, which is a fascinating thing when you think it from an urban study perspective, but also from the point of what dialogue projects and long visions can do. Thank you very much, Karin. Now we jump to one of the oldest and newest projects of Europe, Vienna. Vienna has the oldest interfaith space in Europe, at least according to some academics in the field. They guessed that the little interfaith, the first interfaith space room at Vienna airport was one of the very first interfaith spaces in Europe. But now they're not enough that they have the oldest space. They also now wanted to have the biggest, not only a house, but a campus of religions. And Elisabeth Waldl was a wonderful angel from Vienna. We met in a conference here in Salzburg, and I had trouble to find somebody who covered the campus of religions in Vienna for us, since they just were in a phase where they couldn't see themselves writing an article. But now here is Religious Studies University Vienna and Elisabeth Waldl. Elisabeth, I'm very happy and excited that you did that really huge work of trying to investigate what's going on the campus or the future campus, and I can't wait to hear what you're sharing with us. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Martin. I'm happy to get this opportunity last summer to write an article about the exciting project of the Campus of Religions in Vienna, Austria, because it's a really quite unique project of interreligious cooperation in the making through an evaluation of media coverage and documents, and mostly through several interviews with participants. I was able to depict the vision, the development and the context of the project, as well as its roots, achievements and future steps. The project of Campus of Religions, in them there are 8 different religious communities who have come together to create a center of religious and cultural exchange. The parties involved are the Buddhist Union, the Greek Orthodox Metropolis, the Islamic religious community, the Jewish community, the New Apostolic Church, the Protestant Church AB, the Roman Catholic Church, and the Sikh religious community. In addition, the University College of Christian Churches for Teacher Education Vienna, Krems, is joining the project as education partner and expert in the field of interreligious work. As the location for the planned building complex, the new district Aspern-Seestadt in the northeast of Vienna was chosen. On a shared site at the heart of Seestadt-Aspern, it is planned to build independent religious buildings and rooms side by side, and a new headquarters for the University College and some shared facilities. The vision is focused on respect, tolerance, and openness, which will be exercised in this place of encounter, mediation, and vivid religious practice. The different faiths and worldviews can come together in this place, but do not have to give up their individual identities. The aim is to provide a religious home for its residents, as well as to send a clear message of companionship and peace throughout Vienna, Austria, and the wider world. After 10 years of conception and planning, an architectural competition took place in the first half of 2020, which represents a major step in the development of the project. The winner's design gives concrete form to the ideas of the project. The religious and academic buildings are arranged around a slightly rising square in the center. The individual buildings are connected with a pergola as an architectural bracket. This and the roof gardens give the structure a unified architectural appearance. During the planning process, many goals of the project were already achieved. Religious dialogue has been intensified, the participants have learned from each other, and a strong bond of trust has been built. The tension between communality and autonomy can be found again and again throughout the process and can be seen as representative of the idea of the campus of religions itself. There have been some challenges too, from within and from outside, but the working atmosphere was characterized by reciprocal respect. While the architectural contribution of some religious communities is still unclear, all are committed to the ideals and values of the project. With the inclusion of the University College, a new type of cooperation emerged during the process, and this offers the opportunity for synergetic effects. Now that the architectural competition is completed, the next phase for the entire venture has begun. But there remain many steps until the campus of religions become a material reality. It's a big experiment of peaceful coexistence of different religions, and many expectations and hopes are placed in the campus of religions in Vienna. I'm full of curiosity about how the project proceeds and is finalized. So I'm not able to give an update to my article. This was more a summary of it, because I'm not part of the project itself, but we have some participants of the project on our meeting. So maybe afterwards, if you want to update us on the project, there could be time to do this, please.
We don't hear you, Martin.
Thank you for hinting that, and thank you again for updating us on that project. You can hear fine now, everybody? Okay. A really exciting one. I think for all of us who are involved in a House of Religions project, the very idea that a campus is possible is exciting and very challenging too. So we follow up with Vienna what comes and brings this project. What I find really very exciting is that the education center of religion teachers of very many denominations is also linked with that campus. So learning on an academic level and learning on the ground level is linked. And I think this is really, really exciting. I now want to share the news of Munich, and I hope you can now see my presentation page of the House of Culture and Religion in Munich. Those of you who have been in Munich at the conference will be surprised that it looks like as if we have a building, which of course we don't have really. But when you have been in the conference, the state then was that we have an idea, and then there is a new building ground in Munich on the north-west side, and we want to build a new scratch dormitory and have some rooms for sharing for the House of Culture and Religion there. That was the initial idea. It started with a Munich student dorm, which will have a very long intercultural history and a history of success. But due to circumstances, it was sold, and so the students had to leave the building. And so the idea that this intercultural and interreligious living as it was at the time should continue. It's something what really should not stop. And because of that, some other people in interfaith area in Munich came together, and one of them, Stephen Langnas, who has the Lehrhaus der Religionen since many, many years, and who always was fond of a building where people could meet and share, and others came together, and out came the idea to build a House of Culture and Religion. Meanwhile, after the conference, the news of our visionary idea spread, and the Protestant church approached us, especially in form of a friend and a colleague from Interfaith, from Student Chaplaincy Times. And they said that they have a Protestant church to offer, which is the Nazareth-Kirche in Bogenhausen. And you can see it here on the picture. If you follow my mouse, this is the image of the church. The church was built, and now it's too big for the community. The community also has grown a different part of the city. And so the decanate of the Lutheran Church of the area had the idea to, first of all, ask us if we want to try out, would that space and the building be an option? And we started that this January. Of course, you can imagine how complicated it is, not only to start on an area where was a church in the very past, but there is a running and living community on the spot at the moment. But they were very excited about this idea too. And so we started step by step what we call now a 3-year plan or 3-phase plan. Plan 1 is that we try to test the space, and we will make some kind of program, exhibitions, spiritual activities there. And if the space is accepted, we also will work on the idea of how to transform it and transform the architectural shape, which is of course not easy of an existing church building. You can see one student tried to do a Thomas Mann Literature Center, and you can see that image here upstairs. So that is not how we want to have the House of Culture and Religion, but this is one idea how it could be transformed from a church to something else. But as you can see, the image of the inside here on the left, the main hall of the church is exciting because it's a central hall. Even the altar is on one side due to the theology of the time, but it still has many, many architectural possibilities. And what we do at the moment is we try on program and format. So we ask the people in Munich, what would you do in such a house? And they're coming with ideas from the yoga group to the Buddhist meditation center to interfaith meetings and so on. But also what we do is we will try to test the space by
measuring the space for a king
serious research with Lego bricks. If you know Lego bricks from your childhood, this is a way you can play with space, very good. And we're doing this in the academic, but also we will do it in that church. And then later we hope that students of architecture can join us and try more seriously to develop this building. And of course, we have to do this process very slowly and smoothly. Always the city has to participate in what we are doing. Our vision is at the very, very end, we might be able to create spaces for worship, meeting, a coffee in the middle, and maybe offices and a living space for students. We also want to join academic and living quarter dialogue in one space. So Munich is, I think, exciting from that aspect that we are entering a living religious sacred space, a Protestant church, and with the living community try to develop how could that space be transformed in an interfaith space. It will take a while, will be not easy maybe, but challenging, and we will all learn a lot. Thank you so much for listening to what is new.
Martin, your mic is out.
Okay, thank you. It always happens when I switch. Thank you, Michael. I hope, and I guess many of you have been very exciting to hear what Berlin is saying. And I have to tell you that I just got a phone call around an hour ago from Roland Stolte from Berlin, telling me that he has sickness in the family and has to return home. He's told me to share a few words from you. But all I know about the situation in Berlin is that they had to transform their starting groundwork from the which was planned in April, I think I remember. And the conference, some of you have been there, the video conference took place, but the real conference, they also had to transform and shift it. And he told me that the groundwork has started, of course, but the official opening, of course, is transformed due to the pandemic. And I shall greet you all, and he will keep us all informed. So greetings from Roland from Berlin. The next house on the list is London. And as it is, also Michael has phoned me and told me that the progress is complicated and a bit slow at the moment. He would have had not much more to say than what is in the article. But of course, we are in touch. And as you might remember from the conference in Munich, those of you who have been there, the exciting thing about the Coexist project really is that they have huge partners in the city of London. It's the Lord Mayor, but also huge museums are partners of the project, and that will help. I also met the office when I've been on research in London, and they have a little office at the Inner Temple Circle. And if you know London, this is a very good spot in the very center of town. So it sounds promising what is happening there. Next to join is Carl. And Carl, I'll never forget that we met, was it for 5 minutes on a conference, the Religious Studies conference in Bologna, just shaking hands. You had to go off to the airport and I had to go into the meeting. But anyway, now you are here, you contributed to the book, and I'm very, very happy that you can update us on what is happening in Stockholm, and please share your content if you want.
Thank you, Martin. Thank you, everybody. It's very amazing to be here and see you all and listen to your stories. I will also say that it is Henrik Larsson, who also participated in this conference, who wrote this article, but I will present the work, God's House. So I will now share the screen.
Works fine?
Looks fine. Yes, God's House, members of partnership. We are the Church of Sweden in Nacka, and I'm vicar in this parish. Also Muslims Association in Nacka, and also Catholic Diocese of Stockholm. We have our work and our vision in Fisset, a suburb outside of capital of Stockholm. A lot of languages is spoken, and people come from 100 different countries. 40% Muslims, 40% Christians, and maybe 20% others. The beginnings. We talk about the beginnings as good relations between Muslims and Christians. And actually the school asked us for help, so we went to school together, a priest and an imam. We had a prayer at the football ground, Pentecost 2003, and interfaith joint meetings and ecumenical relations with the Catholic was developed. The more substantial work started when we started the Source Advice Support Center in 2008, together with the Stockholm City Mission. Last year they ended the cooperation with us, but we continue with the Advisor Support Center together with the other partners. And we have individual counseling, language training, and support in different kind of ways, radical, religious, economic, and so different kinds of groups. And then we got this crazy idea about getting really close to each other. This is a building of the whole plan, the whole God's House. But this, I hope you can see my mouse here. This is the church that is standing there in Fisksätra today. This church is owned by Church of Sweden, and we have all the activities here, both Church of Sweden's activities and services, but also all the joint activities that we had together. This is the plan, the vision for the whole building. Here you can see the mosque, and here you can see a part who is connecting this mosque with the church building with the inner square. So when we got this idea, Henrik was the project leader. It was started 2009. Actually, almost the same time as House of One in Berlin. So it's very amazing to notice that we got the vision at the same time. We signed a value document. We started a Friends Association, and since 2015 we have a fundraising going on. What we do, we have social work, as I told you, culture festivals. Here you can see a part of the church and a very amazing Sufi dancer who was participating in one of the culture festivals. Lecture, dialogues, joint activities, peace prayers each Pentecost. Feasts, study visits, schools, about 70 groups visit us every year. We're developing relations to Jews and secular organizations too. And we have a lot of network going. House of One, of course, in Berlin, Network for Dialogue, Coexist in Vienna, Henry Martin Institute, Hyderabad, Indian. And now I must add House of Religions, I think, to this network list. We have fundraising for the building project going on, but it's not so easy to collect this sum of money. I think we can skip this, but we have these premises that is very important for us. We don't have the truth. We are searching it. Children of Abraham, it's about oneness and particularities. We are rooted and respectful. We try to be anyway. It demands courage to try to understand the other. Where people meet, it's our device to create meeting places and counter places for people. And by that we start an important and hard journey from conflict to tolerance, from tolerance to respect, from respect to trust. Diversity is complicated but more fun. And we are inspired by Dag Hammarskjöld, who says in one quote in the markings, "Never look down to test the ground before taking your next step. Only he who keeps his eye fixed on the far horizon will find his right road." And this is from the north of Sweden. You're welcome to join a wonderful pathway there. Yes, thank you. I will stop there.
Fascinating to see how really migration history and a very concrete space in a city can create a vision of such a power. That's something very promising, I think. So now the next contribution is also a very long-standing contribution to interfaith into the interfaith world. Maria, you are in Dallas, I guess, but you're talking about Taipei, and also about one of the oldest and long-standing contribution to the interfaith world, the Museum of World Religions. And we are all very happy that you're with us. One of the advantages of this online meetings, even I have too much in these days, is that you are here and we can have you as a guest and a presenter too. Maria, are you sharing content?
Yes, but I'm not sure how this works because it's not coming.
You see below there is mute.
Yes,
and then
but
stop
then
and share.
Yeah, but it does not bring up my PowerPoint. That's what I was worried about.
Have you started your PowerPoint already? Right. This is Alon from Jerusalem. Hi, Alon. So you're next, and you're jumping in, and we skip Taipei and jump to Jerusalem.
Well, Maria and me are one.
Good to see you.
Maria and me are one. So hers is a long-standing project. Mine is a long walking project, and I want to share with you where I'm walking right now. Anybody recognize where I am? Except for Maria, who knows where I am. Where am I?
Can't see anything at all.
Can't see anything at all.
No.
Okay, I'm in the void. I have fulfilled the Buddhist. I'm in Assisi, which is the capital. Oh, I see. Did I point in the wrong direction? Start again. Sorry, I thought I was. Can you see now?
No.
No one can see me. No one can see where I am. Okay,
Nope.
let's forget it. Let's look at me then. So I've been traveling and I haven't been sure that I'd make a presentation. I wasn't aware of the fact that I was supposed to prepare a detailed PowerPoint, and I was counting on the fact that in any event, the book says it all. So I would do the following. If Martin could put in the chat some relevant things as I speak, I'd like to actually offer reflections rather than a state of progress, or rather a way of situating the project that I've been working on for over a decade in relation to these projects. And just listening to everyone gives me both perspective and huge amount of envy. We just came from Stockholm, so holy envy between religions is one of the themes that comes to us in Stockholm through our beloved and Mr. Stendhal. The organization I run, the Elijah Interfaith Institute, is different than I think any other organization that's launching a house, because it doesn't have that same civic rootedness. What strikes me in listening to all the presentations we've had just now is how contextual they are to each of the cities. And as a consequence of that, the university comes in, student dormitories come in, various other needs. The House of Bern is contextualized in this larger project that Bern is undergoing. You see everything as part of civic and how it serves society, and religious communities are coming together and forming themselves. And that may be the secret to success. That may be the way to go forward. That may be why these projects are moving forward while my project remains a dream. My project may be, however, God's dream, and therefore I pray that this particular project is eventually realized. And I want to first of all contextualize a word about the Elijah Interfaith Institute, which is an international institute. Students, board of religious leaders, we work with scholars worldwide, has been engaged in publications. So the combination of, you could say, a top-down approach leads to the fact that there's a strong emphasis on leadership, scholarship, internationality, and all this, of course, makes it very hard to translate it to a local on-the-ground project with communities. It's even harder when your home base and your visionary base is Jerusalem, which is in one way the most important city worldwide for all religions, because no city worldwide means as much to believers of all religions as Jerusalem does, and no city has been involved in as much religious conflict through the ages. So the globality and the scope of the vision is such that it creates an international, almost cosmic challenge how to ground something in a city that would be realizing this vision from a kind of almost, maybe not, let's drop the almost, eschatological perspective, as distinct from a perspective that fulfills the immediate needs of the communities and therefore can be realized, I would think, much more readily. So the vision really grows from a prophecy, straight and simple. My house will be a house of prayer for all people. That's said of Jerusalem. So it's a vision to try and realize in Jerusalem, if you take the acronyms of HOP for House of Prayer, add to it the E for Education, a space that does a lot of what other people are doing in other spaces. The details of the museum may be different in the details of how you conceptualize the prayer spaces, but fundamentally we're all doing the same thing.
Ron, can you put the mic closer to your mouth maybe? Some people writing in the chat, they can't.
Is this better?
Much better, perfect.
Really, nobody's ever said anything about perfect to me before. So, the House of Prayer and Education really draws from a biblical prophecy for Jerusalem, and therefore it really has kind of messianic resonances, which makes it all the harder to realize, because it's not a project that can grow from the particularity of the religious communities there. They're absolutely not ready for this kind of a project. The interfaith level in Jerusalem is, on the whole, not well developed. Everything is politicized. So this really is a vision that involves communities from the outside with a global future vision, impregnating something in Jerusalem and creating something of such global proportions. It becomes a monument on the Jerusalem landscape that helps to redefine its vision and to position it historically in a way that Jerusalem isn't only the city for Jews, but a city for all religions, as the only such institutional expression pointing towards a greater hope for the future. So the vision is grandiose, and I ask myself from time to time, is it too grandiose to successfully be realized? And time will tell. So where we are with this vision is various lead-up steps, because rather than the vision grows out of almost a quarter of a century of work of the Elijah Interfaith Institute. So we have, if you go on our website, we have a very significant track record, but it's not local, it's international. So this tension of localizing an international success story into a next chapter that can really only happen through the power of prayer. So I see this as a next step which serves a spiritual need rather than a local need. In other words, I see the establishment of the Center of Hope. Yes, it will contribute locally. Yes, it will contribute to peace, but it's actually a much bigger vision and therefore, as I say, much more challenging in its realization. So we in addition to various Elijah activities, we nowadays have a monthly gathering of Jews, Christians, and Muslims for an event that's called Praying Together in Jerusalem, where we model some of it. Now with COVID, it's moved to Zoom, and I would be delighted to include everyone here on our mailing list to invite you to these monthly meetings, because in fact, there's no reason where, since people enjoy now WebEx, we even gives us some diversity between Zoom and WebEx. So, you know, we're not even locked into one platform. So the ability of people to join through our monthly activities could in some way also be a way of tying together the different houses on this call into an event and a monthly date where we can be together. And if that were to emerge, I'd be very happy to give some space for programming to the other houses, so we have maybe some forum or format that we can share together. And for the rest, we are at a point where beyond these monthly activities, we're planning various designs, and I to hope an exhibition that already will model that towards longer term. But truth be told, right now with COVID and the international dimension and everything depending, as Carl said earlier, about fundraising, to a certain extent, I've had to put this project on hold because I can't travel, I can't fundraise, I can't advance various things. Other aspects of Elijah's work have advanced instead. So where does all this leave us? With a global, messianic, eschatological, spiritual, prayerful hope. My wife says I didn't say that it was a space of prayer for all people, and if she's right, then I have to say that. But I believe it was. What I'd like to suggest now is that there is one thing that Jerusalem has that makes it unique, and that's Jerusalem. In other words, everybody says when you're in Bern, come in for a coffee. When you're in Munich, come in and look. But I think probably within the space, either the last 10 years or the next 10 years, all of you will have been in Jerusalem. I see Maria on my screen. She's here regularly. I know Martin was here some time back. And I'm sure all of you, because Jerusalem in and of itself has that value. Jerusalem is the drawing point. And therefore, I think that it's a slightly different process. Rather than serving the community by creating an interfaith, serving the world, because the world comes to Jerusalem, and making a space for interfaith in Jerusalem for the world. So what I'd like I've already made an invitation for others to join our monthly meeting and to find a way of including their programming possibly in our monthly event. I would like to do two things. I mean, Paul just said earlier that the Swedish house is already as part of a network with some other houses. But in sense, this project that Martin has so ably launched is a form of a network. So that raises the question. So now that we're here on this call, what kind of a network are we? Well, this could emerge from the call, but I'd like to make one very simple request, which is to be a network of prayer. The Center of Hope as a place of prayer of the different religions in Jerusalem requires prayer to find the partners, the context. I can't go to the municipality and get land. I've tried that. I can't get to the government, largely because we don't have a government. I can't, the normal partners one would turn to, I can't turn to. So this really requires an international effort in terms of participants, in terms of fundraising, and also in terms of prayer. So allow me then to conclude with a request that in your various houses of prayer, if you would be willing once a week to mention the Center of Hope and to pray for peace in Jerusalem through the Center of Hope. Many of you already are connected to Jerusalem in your prayers. Include this in your prayers. Pray for the success of this, and this will be a kind of home for all of you when you come to Jerusalem. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alon, for this inspiring words from Jerusalem. Just you couldn't show your vision, but you have it here up front on the cover. That is the vision the architects draw on the house in Jerusalem, and you can see more of it, of course, inside. Thanks for sharing, and we now jump back to Maria in the hope that she has solved the technical issues and can share her PowerPoint.
It says I need permission. I need permission to share.
Okay, I can give you permission to share if I, what do I do there? Maria, wait. I think you should be now able to share. I made you co-host.
It says the same. I don't have permission. I'm sorry.
Try now.
Okay.
Does it work now?
Share screen. Let's see. It says the same. I have no permission. It goes back to the thing.
So wait, we'll change.
Try again.
Now I make a host of this meeting. Maria, we're all your guests now. You should be able to share right now.
It says the same. I can't display my shared content. I'm sorry.
Okay. So you will then have to make it up by scratch and tell us. And
yeah, I'm very sorry about that because you know, it's better to see some.
The other solution is you send it to me by email. We skip one more, and then I share for you.
I tried that earlier, but I think it didn't work because probably my net is too heavy already with the meeting. So I can link out of the meeting and try if I can send it to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
please go ahead with someone else and we try to solve this issue.
All right. Well, these things happen. That's no problem. Yeah. Thank you, Maria. And the next would be Flo Bra from New York. I haven't seen the participant list, so I don't know if she is with us. Maybe another computer name. Are you with us? Flo Bryant, Interfaith Center, New York. Have you? She said she wants to come. No.
No, she's not in the list.
No, but sometimes people might have different names. But yes, I also haven't seen her on the list. So that means the next one would be the Abrahamic Family House from Abu Dhabi. And there I had problems to contact them to make sure that they can join. So I also don't know if they are here now. Anybody from the Abu Dhabi Abrahamic Family House? Or from the Office of Architects, which I've been contacting today too? No. So that means you have to draw to the book to see what they sent us. But I just might to fill you in. Abu Dhabi is maybe also one of the most very exciting projects. It's very differently structured than many other of the projects, and you can see a video film on YouTube and on the architect's website on how they want to build it. And it looks fascinating from the view. I haven't found too much information on what is the stage, and it's been very exciting to hear that tonight. But we will fill you up, of course, later on if we got contact again. And the next, then, if Maria is not back yet with her slides to share, would be Terry. And I have seen Terry before, so I think, Terry, you would be on the list. And since sharing of content has worked before, I would welcome you now to share content if you want.
Well, can you hear me?
Yes.
Good.
Welcome, Terry.
This is like Eurovision, only interesting. Can you see my image yet? No, I can see Carl shaking his head. Ah, can you see that? Brilliant. Thank you, Carl. Excellent. Well, as I say, it's fascinating to hear all of your stories, and I hope that all of you understand how important the work is that you are doing, the vision that you are collectively sharing that is a vision of mutual respect and tolerance and support from the world's religions for the 21st century. This really is a reformation. So I congratulate you all. And I'm proud to be part of the book and proud to be here this evening. I think that Martin has asked me to update you all on what I think is the current state of research into shared religious spaces, and my own work, which I hope reflects the broader picture. I think the first thing to say is there's a lot of people doing work on what we might call the archaeology of multi-faith spaces, trying to drill down into history to see where everything started. I have a PhD student in China, for instance, who tells me that there have been multi-faith spaces in China for 1,000 years, spaces shared between Buddhists and Taoists and traditional religions. They came together in shared spaces at the insistence, at the command of the emperor 1,000 years ago, and they've been going strong ever since. That's interesting, and if it's true, it reflects the broader picture in places like South Asia. I've also been excited to discover shared religious spaces and houses of religious spaces. More recently, I discovered quite by accident a few weeks ago that when the Suez Canal was opened in 1869, there were erected 2 houses of religions side by side for Muslims and Catholics during the opening ceremony for the Suez Canal. The poor Coptic Christians of Egypt who represented the locals weren't invited to participate. But there are pictures and there are descriptions of what happened on those fateful days in 1869. So the archaeology of multi-faith spaces continues, and perhaps we'll be able to go back beyond the famous first multi-faith space in Vienna. The second thing that's happening is that there is this burgeoning of new buildings that are being created, intentionally reflecting light and sound and warmth and ventilation, high green specs, recycling, renewable power, zero carbon waste, all allied to the United Nations Sustainability Development Goals. There are 2 organizations currently creating such spaces. There are Well and Bream design spaces. If you Google Well and Bream, B-R-E-E-A-M, you discover that there is a whole swathe of new building designs that is attempting to create something that you might call the sacred, but focused solely around human needs and aspirations. So the question I'm trying to research is there a new form of human-centered sacrality or sacredness that's emerging in contemporary building design? Watch this space. It's absolutely fascinating. The third thing I'm interested in, and here you might look at the slide and the picture of the doorway or threshold that we commissioned for the launch of the 2010 Manchester Multi-Faith Space Centre project that lasted for 3 years. We got a whole stack of cash from the Labour government in 2010, and we set out on the first ever international research project to investigate shared religious spaces. You can see that curious archway or doorway that we set up for the opening conference. And I sat there for 3 hours watching the fact that absolutely nobody was prepared to walk through the doorway. It was almost as though people were scared to enter and cross that strange threshold. So another branch of my research at the moment is exploring how people approach and cross, or don't, the thresholds into shared religious spaces. So, dare I cross this space? Shall I enter it? What will happen if I enter it? What are these strange people who are not like me doing to worship God? Will I be punished? What will happen to me? All of these strange psycho-spiritual impacts that are clearly happening to people I have recorded and witnessed all sorts of these occasions when people have stopped and paused and dare not cross threshold. And yet when I go to places like the Gutshuset in Fisetra, I see Muslims and Christians happily crossing into the spaces of other religions. So I'm interested in the psycho-spirituality of these spaces. And finally, a really interesting thing about multi-faith spaces, such as the houses of religions that you all represent, is that they are, to my mind, spaces that are folded space-time areas. So when you pause at the threshold of a multi-faith space or house, you face the prospect of not just entering an alien and potentially hostile, strange, physical space, but one that's filled with the absence of the familiar physical and spiritual aspects that you would expect to find. They're also spaces that fold up anticipated time, because the expected religious or liturgical seasons of Easter or Pentecost or Ramadan or some other religious festival are likely to be absent. So as a practicing Muslim now, you may enter a religious space expecting to encounter Ramadan and be caught up in all of that. But for Christians, for instance, we're still in the season of Easter. So it's almost as though your expected or anticipated space-time has been folded away or shelved like an out-of-place alien religious artifact. All of these psycho-spiritual dimensions are potentially happening when you cross the threshold into this strange alien world, which is a physical space, but not your physical space, which is a spiritual space, but not your spiritual space, which is a religious or liturgical space, but not necessarily your liturgical or religious space. Moreover, it strikes to me, and here I've been exploring the thinking of Martin Heidegger in his book Identity and Difference. When you cross into a multi-faith space, you are entering a space that's potentially filled with strangers, aliens, and outsiders, with others. So how will they react to your presence? Multi-faith spaces, according to Heidegger, are spaces where people are they spaces of people belonging together or of belonging together? You see the difference of the stress. Are they spaces of people belonging together or places where people belong together? Heidegger's distinction is that he says that in places where people belong together, the purpose is unity, which is unification. But spaces where people belong together are spaces where people can find unity without unification. So in other words, are multi-faith spaces full of unified difference as sameness, or are they full of difference into complementary solidarity? So these are the kind of philosophical and psycho-spiritual issues that I'm trying to explore as people enter religious spaces. One small story to illustrate this. I was spending 5 hours sitting in a multi-faith space in Gatwick Airport in London. It was fascinating to watch the comings and goings of people of different faiths. At one point during the time I spent there, I heard loudly 2 Irish accents from outside the door. The door opened and in came a pile of suitcases, followed by an elderly lady and gentleman who, judging by their accents, were clearly Irish Catholics. They stumbled into the room, and when the lady saw Muslims and Sikhs in the room praying and reading, she froze as if she had seen the devil itself. She genuflected to the window and not to the altar because she was so disoriented. And then she grabbed onto the nearest seat and leant forward, clinging onto the Christian altar as though life depended on it. And only when the Muslims and Sikhs left the room did she calm down and relax and begin her own prayers. Such was the shock of entry into this same space. And it's those kind of issues that I'm interested in, but it's clearly those kind of issues that you, in your shared religious spaces, are beginning to overcome. I spent a happy time in Gudshuset in Fisetra a couple of years back when I was speaking, and it was wonderful to see young Christian and Muslim children running around together. And I was delighted to think that in years to come, those children would grow up knowing that Muslims and Christians belong together in the church as much as they belong together in the mosque. So I think the journey that you guys in your various places are embarked upon is incredibly exciting and incredibly important for the future of humanity in this century. And my prayer is that all of you, from your different perspectives, will be encouraged to carry on and face the issues, the practical issues, the funding issues, the theological issues, and come out on the other side with a tremendous vision, a reformed vision for the future interrelationship of humanity. Now I will shut up. Thank you, Martin.
Thank you, Terry, for sharing. Everybody who wants to go dive deeper into Perry's reflection, really a follow-up and deepening of the first research on Manchester, and Terry, you continued it very well. So please go and read Terry's chapter in the book. I want to share one story. I told about this method, what you shared with you now, Terry, to one of my students. And I said, there is a researcher who sits for hours in interfaith spaces to see what is happening there. And we were discussing the research method as such. I will spare you the details of our academic discussion. But one remark from the student was, this is really good academic heart and altogether also an interfaith heart to spend hours just to sit and see what's happening in the space. So that's a sort of interreligious academic doing, which you brought in, and it's shared in the book as well as a method. And now the good news is that not only Chloe from New York, but also Henry from the same center is with us. And also Mary made to share the PowerPoint. So welcome first, Chloe and Henry, and also Mary, we will share the PowerPoint with you and you continue. Just 1 second. Now it's up to me to find the right thing.
That house across the street has a few.
Now you all should be now to be able to see Maria's PowerPoint. Is that working?
Yes, I hope so.
Yeah. Okay, great.
How do you
go on? Welcome.
So yes, so you will have to push the PowerPoint, I suppose. So we can go to the next slide. Welcome everyone, and excuse me for this little bit of technical problems, but I want to speak about the Museum of World Religions that's located in Taipei. It opened in 2001, and we are looking to celebrating our 20th anniversary this year in November. And the mission of the Museum of world religion is to encourage mutual respect, tolerance, and love between religions. And that is the mission that was formulated by its founder, Master Shindao, who is a Buddhist master, and who motivated his community to support this museum process building that took about 10 years and cost all in all $66 million. So the museum was entirely funded by contribution of mostly Buddhist supporters who wanted this to be their contribution to interfaith understanding and world peace. So it's a very unusual way in which an interfaith center is created by one community of faith for all of the other communities of faith. Can we go on, Martin? The notion behind this museum is based on the teaching of the Flower Garland Sutra, and that tells a story of a pilgrim who goes to visit 53 different teachers on his way to enlightenment. And Dharma Master, the founder of the museum, says that all the different religions that are here on the earth help us all to reach our place of spiritual enlightenment if we can learn from the wisdom of all the religions. And in the Buddhist notion, that wisdom of enlightenment is to see the interconnectedness of every aspect of reality. And that is symbolized by shining jewels that are contained in the knot of a net that is extended over the entire universe. And this is one of the motives in the museum a lot. So we all reflect each other like shining jewels, and religions reflect, their wisdom also reflects each other. Next slide. These were the, so Master Shindao is as you can clearly see in the center of the picture. The museum, the content was developed by Professor Lawrence Sullivan of the Center for the Study of World Religions of Harvard University. He is the gentleman without the beard. And the designer was Ralph Applebaum, which is a very renowned design company in the US with many international projects. He also designed the Holocaust Museum in Washington. And his approach to designing spaces is telling the story. So in the Museum of World Religion, it's telling the story that we are all pilgrims on this path of life together, no matter what religion we belong to. Next slide. That's the entrance to the Museum of World Religions. It's located in a very busy business center in Taipei, and located on the 6th and the 7th floor. And the idea of having it, well, the floor was actually, the 2 floors were donated. But the idea is also that people who are busy in actual life, you know, shopping, buying, doing things, that they can come up to a higher floor and then also open up to a spiritual experience. There is a special children's world in the museum that also teaches about being in this world and loving this world. And that's why you see these little figures that are more appealing to small children at the entrance. And this is now the beginning of the pilgrims, or this is the beginning of the museum. You touch a water wall. And of course, water is very important in all religions as a symbol of purification. This is the beginning of the pilgrim's path, and I've taken out some of the pictures, but here you see that the pilgrims at the beginning of this path are pretty large figures. And as you walk down the path towards the entrance of the museum, they become smaller, but the idea is that we're all on the way together. This is the golden lobby, the orientation. Perhaps we can see it better on the next slide, which shows that you see there is a labyrinth on the earth that is fashioned after the labyrinth in the Shatriedel, but it has all the different symbols of the different religions on the floor. And what we cannot see on this picture is that there is a dome which is dark blue, symbolizing the sky, with many, many little stars that symbolize as well the diamonds in the net as well as the stars in the universe. But again, to show show concretely our interconnectedness. This is a creations theater, which is used for many conferences, but the film itself shows all the stories of religions about how this world came into existence, all the different creation stories. And from there, we walk into the stages of life hall. So the 5 stages of life from birth to death is what all religions celebrate in their own distinctive ways. There are rituals that mark every stage of life. And this is one of the combining threads of the museum, bringing people together to realize that we all go through these stages. So here you see children who see some of the items. I think these are for birth rituals, some of the items that are used. Next slide. Here they can listen to stories. For example, what is Easter in the Christian religion? What are the stories about Ramadan? What are stories about coming to age in Japan? So from stories from the different cultures, there are also films that they can watch. This is the meditation theater in the museum, which shows the importance of meditation and prayer in the different traditions. And there is, as you can see in the middle space, you can sit and actually listen, but also have times of silence. This is called the Testimony Theater. So this on the picture, it's Jane Goodall, but here there are different people who relay and share their awakening experience, their spiritual transformations, not only transformations, not only religious leaders, but you will have well-known sports stars in Taiwan and people like Jane Goodall and other well-known personalities that speak about their spiritual awakenings, about things that happened in life that transformed them. Here we now come to the Golden Globe, or this Avatamsaka world, which was very hard to design. But if you go inside, you will see a film about a spiritual a lifetime from life to death, which includes your interactions with your ancestors, your elders, the people in your church, in your schools, and so on, people from different religions, to show all the interrelated aspects of our existence that we go through without perhaps being so aware of them, as a way to realize how much we depend on each other, how much we depend on the universe, and to really create in people a sense of reality is so much bigger than just myself, and this gratitude that comes from that. And there we come through the Great Hall of Religions. What you see here are architectural models from important famous religious places. And these are models that are fashioned both on the outside and the inside. So the visitors can actually see little cameras and see inside, whether it's a synagogue, a church, a mosque, a Hindu temple, Buddhist temple, and so on. And that's in the middle of the Great Hall of World Religions. Each place has a similar setup. This is the example of the Islamic showcase, where you have religious artifacts, but you also have what you cannot see on the picture. You can listen to the music that is specific to that tradition, and there are also short films about rituals. And on the computer screens, you can check everything about history or about, teachings and so on. This is a wall of gratitude. As I said, I think 300,000 people donated a little bit of money every month for about 10 years, and that helped create a Museum of World Religions. And so the donors are, thanked in this hall. There are lots of, it serves, of course, as a place for a platform for interreligious dialogues. Here is just one example of Bishop Toron, who was here at the museum, I think, briefly before he passed on. So there are very close contacts to religious, especially to the Catholic religion. For some reason, the nuns and the monks feel very familiar with other traditions that have, monastic traditions. But we have also started a series of Buddhist-Muslim dialogues. So the museum is active both in Taiwan in facilitating interfaith dialogue as well as organizing conferences throughout the world, which is my responsibility. In Taiwan, there is no religious education in school at all. And so the children get something that's called life education in the museum, which is an education to let them realize why religions put so much emphasis on a life that is well lived and on the value of life. So they are learning about, you see the different exhibits and programs. I guess we have to speed up, so I can't explain everything. But there are 2,000 children a year that go through these life education classes. And you can see how these the teachers' trainings for other schools as well are held in the museum on all matters of religions. And important teaching materials are published by the museum to be used in schools in Taiwan. And an important part are the volunteers. So there are lots of volunteers that help out with the museum with all kinds of, both as guides, but also when we have special celebrations like birthdays or religious holidays or specific meetings. And it's a big importance to the museum. Religious holidays are celebrated both through exhibits and special meetings in the museum. And local people will be invited to give lectures on their religious health. Also, there are lots of Aboriginal cultures in Taiwan that especially highlighted in the museum. They used to be oppressed for a long time in Taiwan, but the museum is one of the stages where they can really show the beauty of their traditions and interact with people. That's from the same exhibit. Also, yes, the Joyful Old Age exhibit, it's important for the museum not only to address young people, but also there are also programs for the elderly people. And again, on the spirit of connecting old people with young people and connecting people throughout Taiwan, but also to teach traditions that go beyond Taiwan.
Thank you, Maria, for letting us having a walk through the museum.
Very rushed. I'm sorry about that, but I hope you got a first glimpse, and we are happy to celebrate our 20th anniversary in November. Actually, we opened up 2 months after 9/11, and that was so our anniversary is 11/9, and that is also very meaningful.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, I've been reminded that we are already over time, but we have only one presentation left. That is Chloe from New York, and then I will close afterwards with some remarks. So, Chloe, I hope you are ready to share. Or maybe Henry, can you step in if Chloe doesn't hear us?
I would be glad to if necessary, but if Chloe is on, she has the piece in the collection, so.
You hear us?
Yes, sorry, I was having a little video moment.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
Welcome to everybody, Chloe and Henry from New York. And Chloe, can you share or do you have any presentation or just want to share?
I'm going to share. I had a couple websites that I was going to try to include in the chat. They seem to have disappeared, but I'm going to put just one in for the moment. Am I frozen? Because I seem to be frozen myself. Do you actually see and hear me?
We can hear and see you very well.
Okay, great. Well, anyway, I just wanted to say how great it is to be with you. My name is the Reverend Chloe Breyer, and I'm a director at the Interfaith Center of New York, and so pleased to be on with my colleague Henry Goldschmidt, who I will ask to say a couple words and put him on the spot in just a minute. But I wanted to introduce the Interfaith Center of New York, which is as its name suggests, a nonprofit organization that's been around for 23 years here in New York City, a city where, as I'd mentioned when we gathered in Munich, is made up of a tremendous diversity of people from, you know, who many of something almost 37% of whom are born in different countries and come to live in New York City, and also has a number of languages, something like 180 in the school system, which includes approximately 10% of people who identify as Muslim. And religious diversity is a difficult thing, though, to track in the United States, as by our Constitution says you cannot ask about religion on our census. So no one really knows. People can identify as an ethnicity or a race, but every 10 years when the government hands out a census, as they did this past year, there is not allowed to be a question about religion. So mapping religious diversity is a very important endeavor, but it's often measured by other factors other than religion itself. So the Interfaith Center of New York is an organization that seeks to overcome prejudice, violence, and misunderstanding by activating the power of our city's grassroots religious and civic leaders. We are, as I said, one of the oldest organizations of our kind in New York, and really are about seeking to build up civil society and civic engagement through grassroots interfaith work. So that can sometimes be quite practical. And the way it works out in terms of our programs, it varies from basic civics education for grassroots religious leaders to you know, religious diversity education for police officers or for teachers or for social workers. And increasingly, we have been drawn into work that is it's more about civic engagement as community organizing. And so, you know, we're recognized, faith leaders, I believe, are recognized across the board as being important to civil society. And thus, you know, we try to get more turnout for the census or elections. And right now we're facing a citywide election where almost a third of our city council turns over. And one of our roles as the Interfaith Center is to help faith leaders of all different traditions understand who's running for what office and what you have to do to be able to vote. So that's our work, and it's more on the ground, I think, than how we started life, which was as an organization that really was more dedicated to the arts, and our mission has evolved over time. The Interfaith Centers, the diversity that I really talk about in the chapter that is part of the book, talks about a number of lessons that we've learned over time, how important it is, for example, to speak about religious leaders and not clergy, because you exclude women when you do that. And there are so many faith traditions that will, you know, not ordain women, and yet women have an important constituency and roles to play. And we, as the conveners of diverse traditions, lose out when we simply identify religious leadership as clerical. Another important thing is that we highlight the difference between faith traditions and intra-divisions, so that when you talk about the Muslims of New York, you're talking about a city where there are more different kinds of Islam than there are in many other countries around the world because of immigration, and that sometimes those differences are even greater than the ones that exist between sort of the liberal layer, for example, of different faith traditions themselves. And we see that also on the conservative end of the spectrum. You have strange bedfellows around other sort of social issues as well. I wanted to just offer an illustration of some of the things, the lessons that we learned and continue to learn. And then I'm going to ask also Henry to comment on one of these lessons, because I think that we sometimes find we learn as much in our failures as we do in our successes. And one issue right now that the Interfaith Center has been rather involved with has been concerns among Buddhist, Sikh, and some Jain members of the community about the use of the swastika, and how as we contemplated a time in our country where intolerance is on the rise. We see hate symbols such as the noose and the way that symbol has evoked terror for so many years. And also the swastika as it was used in Germany and in the United States and around the world as a hate symbol today. Both those things have become sort of more present, unfortunately, in our public life. And as a result, we've had elected officials who have sought to pass pieces of legislation to include education about them in the public schools. And this is a fraught issue in the United States, where we are not allowed in the public schools to proselytize so much. That's something that Henry has a great program that he does here at the Interfaith Center that teaches how you can teach religious diversity in the public schools, but it's a tricky issue. And so when this legislation came up, the question was, well, how have you misidentified what some scholars talk about as the hooked cross, as being more of what was used in the 1930s, and you're actually not doing right by the millions of people from South Asia and other parts of the world who identify this very similar symbol as one of hope. So that we've had some discussions about that, and right now we're at a place where the legislation has been withdrawn because no one could agree. So to me, that's a bit of a failure on our part, but it's definitely a work in progress. I think I'm up on time.
So
right?
sorry, I just want to kind of hint a little bit towards the time, because we already.
Yeah, I'm done.
Sorry, I didn't want to talk.
Yeah, and Henry will have to talk at some later time also about the work we've done on our logo, and perhaps the work that he does specifically on religious diversity education at the Interfaith Center.
Well, I'm saved by the bell, but thank you, Chloe, for talking about all our work together at the Interfaith Center. And Martin, I'm just glad to be part of the conversation.
Thank you. Thank you also for hinting to the very, very exciting and it's not so easy part of symbolism, which we have to all deal with in interfaith. And I think the big issue about the swastika is a very exciting one when you see that Asia and Western history comes together. I want to thank you all for participating, and I want to kind of just have a very, very quick closing remark, just because we have already a little bit stretched time, but I think it's forgivable because we all have to face technical issues in these kind of web conferences. And I was just want to sum up with the very famous Henri Lefebvre, who is the big philosopher of space, and he calls about the production of space. So if I think and see how all we strive to produce space for urban and interfaith communities, for me, the most interesting is what we all share today is that with the production of space comes a new production of meaning, a meaning which is new in that sense that we try to be in one space, different religions, and not in a sort of concurrence, but in a sort of making it a new meaning for the urban wider society, but also, and very important, and I think we could see this, for example, at the meditation space Maria showed us, or even the research method Terry hinted us to, there are new forms of spiritual rituals will come. The minute of silence we already know in the secular world. More things will be created in the future, and I think we are in the middle of it. So time is forbidding us to now dive deeper into that. I don't want to hold you on the whole night or the whole day, depending where you are on the planet. So thanks again for sharing, everybody.
Martin, may I make a request? Martin,
Yes.
may I make a request? I've been seeing all kinds of people on this call, people whose name I know from research like Gru Rose and some other people. Can those people who haven't spoken or given a talk at least introduce themselves so we know who they are? Because if they were part of this, then obviously they've got a connection and we may want to tie into that connection. Would it be, now that the meeting is officially over, could we have a run of meeting all the people who didn't speak?
Well, I would love to, Alon, but I've been already hinted by several members in the chat that we have already 20 minutes surpassed time. And I think if we start, it will take very, very long. But I think you're right that we should continue and have more conferences like that. So please all forgive me that we can't open the floor at this stage of the night, I am afraid. We wanted to stop already 20 minutes ago. And I think it would be more unpolite to now open the floor for sharing than now for me safely and smoothly closing it. I hope you all understand. Maybe please shake hand or rumor or not so that we can have some sort of reaction. Okay, I think we all fine by that. We'll see each other again, I guess, here or then, or in any interfaith space or a conference. So all the best for all your work, and we might close this session not with sharing words, but with sharing some minutes and moments of silence. If you want to share with me some moments of silence, so that's my way then of closing the session. And that's me stopping now being an academic and becoming just a human to share with you some silence wherever you are. Thank you, everybody, and thank you for being with us so long. If you want to see what we have done tonight, you can go on YouTube because it's recorded, as I said, and will be online maybe later this night. Have a good night. Thank you, everybody, for sharing. Thank you, Alon, for showing us some good images of the Holy Land, and everybody have a good time.
Thank you so much, Martin. Everybody.
Thank you. Danke, Martin.
Thank you. Bye-bye all.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Tschüss.
Bye-bye.
Tschüss.
Tschüss.